Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 52 of Every Day is a Story All Its Own podcast. I am your host, storyteller, and creative, Joey Medea. We're making history tonight. And maybe my guest doesn't want me to tell you this, but Jim is the person that I have known the longest who's ever been a guest on my show. And that is exactly 40 years this year. It doesn't seem possible. We're still very young and good looking, as you'll see when I bring him on screen. And those of you who know him will know it as well. But anyway, yeah. So we were. He actually showed up way early, which was great. Some guests make me wait till the very last minute, and I wonder if they're going to show up and everything's going to work all right. And we burned through the time, so we were 1 minute late going live. But here we are. I'm very excited. Hey, good evening, Tanya. Tanya's very excited that Jim's on. Tanya has known Jim for, let's see, Tanya and I have been together 29 years, so she's probably known him for about 24 years. We spent lots of pleasant evenings together at our home in New Jersey. So we have a lot to go through. Jim is a wonderful illustrator. He celebrates very talented women. And when I say very talented women, I mean mega talented women. You'll want to go to his Facebook page. You'll want to go to his Instagram. He's going to tell you about all of that. Go to his Jim Smith art page. Some of that is in the comments, in the show notes. All the rest of it will be after he tells us all those things at the end of the show. We're going to do a little reminiscing about the old days, but we're going to spend the bulk of the time tonight. I have a wonderful slideshow for you. Wait until you see his art. And so many of these, every day is a story all its own. Well, every Jim Smith illustration is a story all its own. I learned some things tonight that I didn't know. You're going to learn some things, or we're going to learn some things together. So it's going to be wonderful. So let me read Jim's bio, then let me get my media assets up here. Big deal, like we're CBS or something. Am I allowed to say CBS? I don't even know. But we'll roll the opening and then we'll get going. So Jim Smith is an illustrator from Philadelphia, specializing in popular culture with an emphasis on gifted and or unique women. In previous incarnations, he acted, studied musical theater writing, and worked as an assistant to feminist icon Gloria Steinem, who I've been learning a lot about on the documentaries that accompany Mad Men season 1 and 2, which I'm revisiting. He has self-published 2 books of illustrations, which I just found out this week, with a third on the way. Very exciting, focusing on the art of show tunes. He posts new work weekly on Instagram at Jim Smith Art, but that's in the show notes already. And then we'll find out where you can find us up, where you can order it, you can get it. We've gotten merch. I'll just show this to you right now. Well, I can't because it's a placeholder for something later, but I have a piece of merch from Jim that I absolutely adore. It sits here and it looks at me and talks to me. That's what I'll tell you. It talks to me all day. Keep going, Joey. You're doing a great job. All right, so let's roll the opening and bring Jim back and get the show properly started. Speaking of musical theater, that is a number by Knight Berman Jr., former guest. So I've known Knight for a very long time, and we have collaborated on a number of musicals, one of which now is getting funded for me to direct out in California, hopefully next year. So that's been going on for a while. Exciting things happening. Let's bring Jim on, and I apologize to you all because I'm a little wound up tonight because one of my oldest, dearest friends in the world, immensely talented, and now he's on my podcast.
Hello.
Good evening. So
I just have to say one quick thing.
Please.
I shortchanged myself. I've actually self-published 3 books, and I was like, why did I say 2? I forgot one of them. But anyway, so.
But there's still a 4th one coming.
There is a 4th one coming, yes.
And you'll tell us how we can get them and all about them at the end of the show. And I hope you have copies to show us.
I have 2 of the 3.
Good. Well, good. I know. Some of my books I don't have copies of. Go figure. but it means we're selling them, which is good. So I talked a little bit how we met, but I bucked what everybody wanted me to do. Everybody wanted me to go to Syracuse University, or wanted me to go to Rutgers, Mason Gross, so on and so forth, to get my BFA. And I was like, I want to go somewhere. Well, first of all, I want to be a writer. So I have to go somewhere where I can get my English and theater degree in 4 years. And I want to go somewhere where I can actually play parts and not be guard number one for the graduate students. Because while I'm learning all these techniques, I want to make sure that they work before I absorb them and put them in my toolbox. So I applied to what was called Beaver College at the time. Folks, they had to change the name because in the days of internet searches, they were getting blocked, and that's a true story. That's my alma mater. Only me, Joey Medea, would choose a school like that. But it was originally in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and it was an all-girls school. It was a conservatory, and that's where it got its name. The mascot's the mascot. So there were a couple of things that were appealing. And Jim, this is where you knew these people a lot better than I did, and we'll kind of dovetail our stories from there. But what was very appealing to me was Don Lehman ran the technical, and Ellen Kaplan, of course, ran the performance. And they were very well known working. Ellen introduced me to my agent that I had for a number of years in Philadelphia, Mike Letman. So I was very excited that I was going to be very hands-on. And the other piece, and this is where the door opens for you, is that they cast from off campus. So as an 18-year-old kid who really wanted to learn my craft so I could go out and do it professionally in 4 years, I got to work with actors who were much older. You weren't that much older, but some were, and well suited for the parts and had great reputations and really, really good resumes. So what do you recollect about?
Well, I was about 20 or 21 when I met you, and I had about 6 months or so before I met you, I co-produced a community theater production of Bye Bye Birdie, and the woman that we hired to direct it was Ellen Kaplan. And I wasn't even supposed to be in it, but then we couldn't get enough people, and I ended up playing Albert, I think his name was, and, just the lead. And but it wasn't planned that way. And then, I really liked working with Ellen. It was intense, and it was wonderful. And then she, she was pregnant at the time, and even when I did the first show at Beaver, like she told me, "Oh, I'm doing a show. You should come audition." And I went and I auditioned for this A.R. Gurney play, Scenes from American Life, and I got in, and I think I did maybe altogether 5 or 6 shows at Beaver. Is that the? Oh my goodness!
There is Jim.
Wow.
There he is.
On the left. Oh, the 80s. I miss the 80s.
You did 5 or 6 shows there? We did 3 together that I could recollect.
I did. Let's see. Well, the maybe I'm exaggerating. It was These Are American Life, The Heiress, that Clown Alley thing.
Yep.
And then I was directing or co-directing the Good Doctor. And then I was Seymour in their production of Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay, so those actually predate me.
Those post-date you. Those were
Did
after
Ellen
you graduated.
Come back for a while?
Well, you graduated in what? 89?
90.
In 90. Okay. So
Rica.
Little Shop of Horrors was in the fall of 90. So I guess it was right after you graduated. Otherwise, you would have probably played that part.
Oh, that would have been cool. But I had to leave at some time.
Yes.
Get the hell out.
And then after that, I sort of hung up my my boots, whatever, my acting. I didn't really act much after that. I was writing and trying to write for musical theater and all this other stuff. But anyway, that's how we met.
But that's a good segue. So let's go. So you hang up your acting togs, and you moved to New York, right?
Yes.
The musical theater workshopping was in New York, right?
I still wanted to act at that point. I went and visited. Maybe we'll end up jumping order a little bit. I went and visited my friend who had just moved there. This was like '89, I guess. And while I was there, I was looking at a copy of Backstage, and there was an ad for an acting class at the T. Shriver Studio with Betty Buckley. She was the
Ooh,
teacher. And I was like, I think I want to do that. And I went and I auditioned and I got in. And my friend, who's my still my oldest friend from high school, he got a job on a tour of West Side Story in Europe. So the room in his apartment was becoming empty. And like with a matter of like 2 weeks, I was like, I decided to do this. I auditioned, I got in, and I moved to New York. And it didn't all work out great, and I ended up leaving like 8 or 9 months later. Um, but I came back eventually, and then at that point I went to Costa Rica with Ellen. She won a Fulbright scholarship to teach. She and I went as her assistant, ostensibly, but my Spanish wasn't as strong as we had hoped. So mostly I babysat for her. She had a 3-year-old at the time. So
yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
um, but while I had time, I started writing um, sort of little mini musicals myself, the libretto and the lyrics while I was in Costa Rica. I had a lot of downtime, and I sort of started to feel like maybe I wanted to do that instead. And then eventually, I auditioned for the BMI Musical Theater Workshop, which is still a pretty prestigious organization, and they team up. Well, first of all, they try to pass on the learned wisdom of other writers, and they team up lyricists and composers, and you have all kinds of projects. Like you have to write a song for um, Stella, or not Stella, for Blanche Dubois. You have to write a song for Willie Loman. Spoiler: right before he kills himself. Um, all these kinds of exercises, and then the whole second year is you stick with one partner and you work on one project the whole year, and it was great. It was wonderful. Uh, a few people got shows off the ground. Actually, who was in my workshop in my year was Janine Tesori. She was the
Oh,
biggest
nice.
success story. She's now a two-time Tony winner for Funhouse, and I, I forget the other name, the name of her other show, but she's been very, very successful. I wrote
Cool.
one song with her one time.
Oh, nice. And you were the lyricist part of the team.
I was the lyricist. So what
Now,
they would do is it was like like a square dancer, or
right,
you change partners for each assignment during the first year, and I just
right.
happened to get her for one of the assignments.
That is very cool. Now, I remember what your second year project was. Can you tell the audience? Or no?
I can certainly tell. I think it's even funnier the things that we considered. Like we spent a whole summer trying to figure out what to do, and one day, it would be like one day I came in and I was, what about Children of a Lesser God? For like a day or two, and then be like, that's a really terrible idea. So the thing we settled on was Kramer versus Kramer, and we thought it would be like a little, you know, the word chamber musical was all the rage at the time because you had mostly I think because of Passion, the Stephen Sondheim show, which was on Broadway without an intermission, and it had very few people, and everybody called it a chamber musical, which is just means you don't have to hire as many people and you don't have to build as many sets, really.
Right,
And
right.
so we wrote it, and they tell you don't get your heart set on the first thing you write. Don't. It's only an exercise. It's not gonna go anywhere. But inevitably, like, how do you not? Of course we were like, maybe we could do something with this, and we did contact the author of the novel, Avery Corman. We contacted his people, and he said basically, if anybody's ever going to write that, it's going to be me. I'm like, okay, so that's that.
I remember
Um,
that.
so lesson learned. Um,
But but because I have a mind that things get in and they don't get out, it's like a crab trap. Um, wasn't Lainey Kazan interested at one point, or was it a different
No, no,
project?
that was a different project.
Okay.
I wrote a screenplay around, I don't know, 99, 2000, and it was called Just in Love, and it was about uh, a therapist who um, basically, I don't know how to say this. He's gay, right? And he couldn't quite tap down the self-loathing, the internal homophobia, or as I used to like to say, he was perfectly fine. It was the stereotypical things that bothered him, and I think that was true for me too. He could say more easily say, "I like to," in the back room than he could say, "I love show tunes." That was
Mhm.
more embarrassing for him.
Right.
So the crux of it is his boyfriend breaks up with him, and he's visited by the ghost of Ethel Merman, who kind of it's almost like It's a Wonderful Life kind of thing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
she doesn't show him what life could be without him, but he does she does sort of push him in the right direction and nudge him, and there was a character who was a Jewish mother who I thought was a really well-rounded Jewish mother and had a sex life and wants and needs of her own and all. And I sent it to Leni Kazan, and she wrote back a lovely letter. She's like, I don't know if I want to do any more Jewish mothers. I just, she said, but thank you for sending it to me. And I guess I sent him a second letter because she said, all right, I'll read it. And but I never heard back from her. But I did hear from Tova Feldshuh. I sent it to every like.
Right.
I purposely wrote because of the people that I'm interested in. I wrote maybe 4 or 5 character parts for women between say 40 and 70, and then I sent it to every old broad I could think of. Right, and I snagged 2. I got Tova Feldshuh, who uh, tracked me down when I was working for Gloria in Gloria's office because I sent it on Gloria's Dynam office stationery because I thought, well, maybe that'll get somebody's attention. And we get a call in the office one day, and it's Tova Feldshuh and her people, and she had lost my script in on a trip to Sardinia, and she's like, so all she could remember was that it came from Gloria Steinem's office. So she tracked it down, and she got another copy, and um, she actually was interested in the Ethel Merman part. So so she said, well, you can use my name, and she said, "Where are you with money?" I was like, "I don't have any." She said, "Yeah, well, I don't have any either. So, but you can use my name." So I got her, and I got a lovely letter from Ann Mira, and her they have a reader, so she didn't actually read it herself. She said, "My reader is out of town at the moment, but as soon as he gets back, I'm going to give this to him to read." And very lovely little hand signed note. And then I heard back from them, and they're like, you can use her name too. So.
Nice. Hey, that
Um,
was a good sign.
but that's as far as I got. I could not push that boulder up the hill. I'm not a producer. I did what I could. So
It is, yeah, I am taking that Hollywood journey on several fronts now, and it's interesting. It's interesting. So you mentioned Gloria, great, but we're gonna back up just a little. We're gonna pop up. We're gonna go small, and we're gonna go big for your work, Jim Smith, Illustrator. We are gonna start though, actually, with someone who you introduced me
mm,
to,
yes,
um, Lori Beachman. So tell us the story.
Laurie Beachman was a musical theater actress from Philadelphia, and she played Grisabella in Cats for about 4 years. She replaced Betty Buckley, and she just stayed. I think she did it longer than anybody else did. And I had seen her on TV when I was in high school, and I just nearly lost my mind when I heard her sing. And that was, I think I was probably a junior or maybe I was a senior by that time. Anyway, I ended up in a community theater production of Funny Girl with her mother, who was a professor at Penn State, a theater professor. Her name was Dolly Beachman, and she was so much fun. And I became friends with Dolly. And at the time we were doing the show, oh sorry, which wasn't really a great production. It didn't have a lot of money or values, and anyway, Dolly's mother was sick and dying at the time, and so I sort of made it my job to like sit with her and make her laugh during in the theater during rehearsals, and laughing at what was on the stage or like the horrible costume or how Fanny came out all in black like she was Medea or something. And anyway, whatever I could make her laugh at, I made her laugh at. And Dolly knew, of course, that I was a fan of Laurie's. And in between the two weekends of the show, Dolly's mother passed away, and so Laurie came home to Philadelphia for the funeral. And the last night of the show, we're backstage and we're just getting ready for the curtain call. And Dolly pulls me aside and says, "Oh, by the way, Laurie's in the audience tonight." And I was like, "By the way," it's like I didn't want to make you nervous. I didn't want to tell you. So the drawing on the right is actually based on a picture that my friend Tim took of the moment I met Laurie for the first time.
Oh, neat.
And then on the left is about 2 years later in her dressing room at the Winter Garden Theater where she was doing Cats. And I was very excited because not only because it was my first time in a dressing room, but she had, talking about full circle, the Winter Garden is where the original Broadway production of Funny Girl also played.
Mm.
And Laurie had half of Barbara's old dressing room. Barbara had like a suite because, for guests. And then,
Yeah.
so Laurie had half of it. And the guy who played Old Deuteronomy had the other half. So it was fun. And anyway, eventually, a few years later, I ended up moving. The second time I moved to New York, which was only about 2 years after the first time, uh, I ended up working for Lori as her assistant,
Mm-hmm.
um, and she was battling. She had been through, I think, her second round of ovarian cancer at that point, and she was putting on a nightclub act, and she just needed help with, the mailing list and errands and or one of the things I did once the show was up because it ran for like 3 weeks was count the house to make sure that they didn't rip her off
Right.
and stuff like that. And just a really wonderful, delightful time in my life, and got to hear her sing like every night. And one of the other really fun things, it's so funny, it's all like related to Funny Girl in one way or another. While Lori, the following summer, Lori went back. She would leave and come back and, do different stints in Cats. She came back for their ninth anniversary, which was kind of, Cats' 9 lives and whatever. Um, but at the time, she also was hired to go out to California to this thing called the Sacramento Music Circus. It's a big outdoor theater. She was hired to play Fanny Bryce in Funny Girl, and there was only going to be about 8 or 9 days of rehearsal, so she really needed to know the part before she got there. So I would sit back in the dressing room with her while she was putting her cat makeup on and adding her whiskers and her little star and everything, and I would run lines with her. And of course, she was Fanny, and I was everybody else.
Nice.
I was her mother. I was her lover. I was Ziegfeld. And so that's pretty cherished memories too. Really
Nice.
fun time. Yeah. Anyway.
And I got to see her perform once with you as your guest, and I appreciate that. And I became friends for a very long time with her sister Claudia. So
Yes.
yeah.
I became friendly with Claudia too, and then I don't know. I was in a weird headspace for a long time, and I sort of lost touch with a lot of people, yourself included.
Yeah.
Um, but I was very fond of Claudia as well, and she's a wonderful singer too.
I will tell you, we're just gonna hit it's a little bit of a joke. But then not. But yeah, you just disappeared and didn't tell anybody. And I didn't know, literally, I didn't know if you were alive or dead. And we had known each
Oh,
other for a long time. And I was very upset and trying to search for a Jim Smith in the early
I
days of the
know,
internet.
I
You might as
know.
well. Yeah.
It wasn't my intention to do that, but um, and I won't get into all the things,
Right.
but there was a
Right.
lot of drama when my father passed away,
I remember.
and a lot of angst and a lot of stuff stirred up, and a lot of, you know, a lot of people say you should go back to therapy, and I'm like, I'm not going back to therapy. I cannot crack that nut open again, you know.
Yeah.
And I lost my interest in writing for musical theater. That had something to do with Lori passing as well. I don't know, maybe it was an excuse because I didn't feel like I was good enough or whatever it was. But I, I, I lost my passion and my desire to write for the most part, to put words together, you know. Um, but I still felt the need to be creative, and eventually that it turned to drawing and
Yeah.
painting.
Perfect.
So,
This has turned into a Barbara Walters special.
I
So
know, right? What
moving
kind of?
on.
Yes, there
Moving
we go.
on, good man. So
Oh,
yeah, so tell us about you're going to take us through and we're going to meet these 10 wonderful women through your eyes
okay,
and through your stories. But when did you pick up the pen and go, "Whoa, this is something I want to invest my time in"?
okay. So at about 20, 2006, 2007, I had this wonderful boyfriend who had been an animator for like 30 years, and he had worked on Doug and some stuff at MTV and a bunch of things. And I was having dreams almost every night. I would dream about somebody famous, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I dreamt about the Redgrave sisters last night, and they were, you know." And he's like, "Uh huh, uh huh, uh huh." And then one morning he just said, "You know, maybe you should put this stuff in a blog," which I interpreted as like, because I can't hear one more. You know, like I can't wake up one more morning and, and see which elderly actress, middle-aged actress, you're going to tell me about. So I was like, all right. And this was like blogs were just everywhere then. So I started a blog, and he used to call me Jiminy Snap. And so we named the blog Jiminy Snap Star Dreams, which is such a mouthful. It's so stupid. I wish I hadn't agreed to it. But anyway, that was the name of the blog. And so the first one I remember, I wrote about this dream I had where I went to the movies with Sigourney Weaver. So I just picked a photo of Sigourney Weaver off the internet and put it and posted it. And he said, "What's this?" I said, "Well, Sigourney Weaver." He's like, "Yeah, but you can't just you have to illustrate it." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You have to draw something." I'm like, "I don't, I'm not, I don't do that." He's like, "Well, it doesn't matter." So I listened to him and I started, and the first things were, I'll be the first one to tell you, I have a lot of tricks. I I um I didn't study for years and years and years. I have some natural ability, and I have a lot of ideas on how to work around my limitations. But in the beginning, I mean, they were little more than stick figures with makeup. They were, and that's how it started. And then I did the blog for a few years, and the dreams took a lot of time, to write them out, remember them, and then it was all sort of dictated by who I happened to dream about that night. And
Yeah.
so eventually the dreams kind of dried up. And I'm not saying I never dream about celebrities anymore, but it just didn't, it wasn't the frequency, right? Or the variety. Um, and I was like, well, what else can I do? And I sort of turned to drawing people I like on their birthdays, and that is
Nice.
my sort of format now. And it's not, I'm not locked into it. If something happens in the news, or somebody dies, or I just get, or if I do have a dream about somebody I like, or if I just decide I feel like drawing that today, I'm certainly free to. Like, there's no, the rules are sort of self-imposed, and I sort of think of it as, I'm not comparing myself to Charles Schultz, but the idea that you have to feed the beast, you have a schedule, and my schedule is a little more forgiving than his. I don't have to do, 7 strips a week. But usually I try to do 2 or 3 at least. And it works for me. It works for the way my works, and with the calendar, I have a pretty good head for birthdays. Um, and so, like, I know, people coming up later this month. You've got Meryl Streep on the 22nd. You've got I think Maureen Stapleton on the 19th or 20th. And Isabella Rossellini on the 18th. She's a
We're
big
gonna
one.
get to her. Yep.
Well, anyway, so these are Lori. One of her is her in character as Grisabella in Cats, now and forever. The one in the middle is her in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I sort of put some of the words to one of the songs. It's the Coat of Many Colors, and the other one is just a portrait.
Nice.
Oh, and the middle one, that was the show she was nominated for a Tony for. So,
Nice.
if that sort of thing's important to you, as it is to me.
Well, hey, it's how we gauge. On
Yeah,
a certain
no,
level, it's how we gauge. So,
it's true.
yeah.
And this is from the second inaugural concert for President Clinton, and
Oh,
she introduced him singing with a chorus, um, "You'll Never Walk Alone."
oh, nice. Very cool. See, I didn't know that. So I'm learning things too. And so there we go. So that was our first.
Ah,
So you mentioned Gloria. So how did this happen?
yes. Well, I had always admired her. Um, as much for her work as for, well, I'll tell you. I met her when I was 18 years old,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
at a book signing. And it was her first real book, and it was a collection of her essays. It was called Outrageous Acts and Everyday Rebellions. And I read a little tease of it in the Inquirer, the Philadelphia Inquirer, or Inquirer. I don't know. And I talked about her mother, who had been mentally ill and largely incapacitated for a good deal of Gloria's childhood. And, she would make her meals or what, a child thought a meal should be. And it was rough. And it really touched a nerve with me because although it was not the same as Gloria's. My mother had some mental illness as well. And I felt a lot of the times like either I was parenting myself or that I would we were we my siblings we were sort of parenting my mother at times.
Right.
And I will say I think after years of therapy I was like she did the best she could. I did the best like we all did the best we could. So I'm not reproaching her in any way. I'm just
Right.
saying it's what made me feel a kinship to Gloria, more so than who she was, right?
Right.
So anyway, I was first person in line, and I got she signed my book, and it had my little name on there. And she's like, Jim Smith. Well, at least you don't have to go through life telling people how to spell your name. So that was it. Cut to like 1997, and I knocked on her door. I I had seen her in the neighborhood, and I knew where she lived, and you could see like in the she used to have her office on the ground floor of a brownstone, and the window, the curtains were open. You could see her there at her computer, and oh, this story gets a little long. I'll try to make it short. I'd seen her on TV talking about Larry Flint when the movie about him came out, and
Right.
and people were like, "He's the First Amendment here," and she was like, "No, he's not." There was like this very small ruling, and he was, a pig and a pornographer and all this stuff, and something about seeing her and with Larry's daughter, it just, I don't know, something opened inside of me, and I thought, I'm just gonna go see what I can do to help. Like it was a dumb, innocent thought, right? I ring her doorbell. She sticks her head out the front door, and there's like, it's like a little vestibule, and she's like, yes. And I was like, and I said, uh, I saw you on Charlie Rose last night, and like, I know this isn't a volunteer center or anything, but I just thought, what can I do to help? And she said, oh, oh, come in, come in,
Wow.
and that's how it started.
Nice. So
Yeah.
how long did you work for her with her?
So, well, for the first 2 years, I didn't work for her. We just would run into each other, or I'd come in every now and then and have tea. And then one day, my office was only a few blocks from where she lived and where I was living at the time. We got a call and somebody said to me, Gloria Steinem's office is on the phone, and everybody knew I had met her, so I thought it was a joke. I was like, oh, that's not funny. I'm like, no, really. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was another woman that worked for her named Amy, and she's like, we were wondering if maybe you would really want to come and work at the office part time, and so I did that from like '99 to almost 2002,
Oh wow.
and then I spent several years after that watching her dog when she would go on trips.
Oh
So, um, but I would never like. I don't know. I'm funny about taking money. I did not want to take money for watching the dog because I loved watching the dog, and I loved that it was something I could do for her. But she was like, "Well, then we'll go to the theater." So then we used to go. We'd go to the theater and get dinner, and instead of taking cash, which was wonderful.
yeah,
So
that's a good way to go. So some tell us about these.
okay. So actually, just go back 1 second to the picture.
Oh sure.
I just said that. So the one on the left is me and my sister and my cousin. Gloria came to Philadelphia a few years ago
Oh neat.
and we met up with her. But the one on the right, this was after I moved back to Philly in 2015. So this was a rally in the suburbs of Philadelphia about 2 days before the world changed.
Mm,
About 2 days before you can see my T-shirt there, right? The
right.
2 days before the 2016 election. Anyway, so
There,
she was
there you go.
in the fight. Yeah. All
Well
right. So then,
handled. That was very well handled.
oh, thank you.
Yes. Two
Um,
days before the world changed.
yes, exactly. And I don't remember what the quote is there, but
The truth
um,
shall set you
oh
free, but
yes,
first it will piss you off.
yes, she says that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And is that Ruth
um,
Bader Ginsburg?
It is. This is based
Nice.
on a photo I saw of them in the New York Times where they were having tea together. And I was just sort of taken with it. And I feel like sometimes when I draw, I'm too like, oh, it has to be, you know. And so this was a little freer, a little looser. And it's the kind of thing I like when other people do it, but I judge
Mhm.
myself really harshly when I do it. I'm like, but also, I also sort of feel like, um, I understand that there are people who draw and paint so incredibly well that it's like lifelike, that it's like a picture. But for me, I'm like, well, then just take a picture. Like, I'd rather something that was a little more, you know, clearly inspired by rather than a completely faithful um, recreation of. And I try to keep that in my head, but sometimes, sometimes I err on one side or the other. It's like it's too pinched, too. I don't I don't mean perfect, like oh that's a perfect drawing, but like too buttoned up, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So these
It's some go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
just this is examples of ones that are
Yeah.
less buttoned up.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, somewhere between a portrait and a caricature. So of course we're watching Mad Men, Tanya and I, for the second time, the first several seasons, and they were in Sardis. So we got a big
Mm.
iPhone, and then they did a whole documentary about Sardis, and you're somewhere in between there. So I mean, it's wonderful how to capture what you're going to see, folks. And we have 90 something of these to
Oh
show you
wow.
is the way that they express is different and neat and appropriate. So that's going to be fun. So that's what I wanted to say. So uh yeah, if you want to say just a, we'll got to keep moving, but
Yeah. Okay. So sometimes when I decide to draw somebody, I might have an idea of what image I want to use as a reference, but I never know what I'm going to do. Now, I do draw on an iPad, but I use tools in the iPad that are marker, pen, pencil, watercolor, and I never know until I start which one I'm going to use. And then
uh,
sometimes I'll do something in pencil, and I'm like, it's not really doing it for me. Let me try that one again with ink, or let me try that with the watercolor, or sometimes a combination of the three. So that first one on the left, the pink one with the cat, that's just ink, if you will.
mhm.
The one in the middle is a combination of pencil and watercolor, and the one on the right is mostly, well, the outline is ink, and then the inside is mostly watercolor. The
Neat.
bunny. I love that one. That's my favorite that I've done of her.
I, that was surprising to me. Did she, in point of fact, ever dress up like a Playboy bunny?
Well, she has a very famous essay that she wrote in the '60s before anybody knew who she was. For can't remember the name of the magazine, but she went undercover and she wrote a piece called "I Was a Playboy Bunny." She
Wow.
went as a waitress at the Playboy Club and discovered all these things like they sent the waitresses for gynecological exams and they, you know, encouraged them to sleep with the key holders who were like the big,
Mhm.
all this stuff. And she wrote this whole article. And she said one of the permanent results of writing that article was her feet swelled to two sizes. And
Wow.
they never went back down because of the heels and,
Yeah.
you know. So it's
Ooh.
sort of like I don't. I love that wry look on her face that sort
Yes.
of says, yes, I'm wearing this, but it's not what you think, folks.
There you go. So it definitely caught my attention. I love the watercolor in the middle. That's just absolutely stunning. So I think we have okay. So we're on to Betty Buckley.
Betty. So I got into that class with Betty Buckley in 1989, and I found her absolutely terrifying. She doesn't like when I say that because I'm a little bit friendly with her now on Instagram all these years later.
Uh-huh.
She's like, "Oh, come on, you weren't terrified." But she was tough. And the class was based on meditation, and so we spent like the first half an hour with our eyes closed and with candles and meditating and working on our breathing and stuff. And the summer that I was with her, her father died that summer, so she ended up leaving the class a few weeks early. And I only got to do like one thing for her, but it was my assignment. I guess it was everybody's first assignment. I had to go to the zoo and pick out an animal and study it, and then come back in the class and present it for everybody. It's like a chorus line, right? It's like
Yeah.
an ice cream cone or anyway. So I picked an iguana and I watched it for hours and hours, all that stuff. And I went and I sat on the floor, I was on all fours at the classroom, and I did my iguana. And when I was finished, Betty just said one word, iguana. And I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking Brando. I was like, she didn't say lizard. She didn't say frog. She didn't say bearded dragon. No, she said iguana. So that was my great victory in her classroom. And I've always been a fan. Like I was a fan before I ever took the class. And then probably 7 or 8 years ago, I guess I found her on Instagram, and then her birthday's July 3rd, and I always draw her on July 3rd. And she saw a couple that I did, and then I showed her. She's in the book, and I write about the acting class in my one book.
Oh, neat.
Um, and so I drew several images of her for the book, and one of them she has a big iguana on her shoulder. So
Oh,
that was
that is
fun.
neat. That is
But I'm
neat. That is a
actually
hundred. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was like, well, you know what? I could talk about it, or
Yeah.
I could show you.
Let me get this out of the way.
Go ahead.
There you go. No, I meant literally get the slideshow out of the way. Radio
Okay.
folks on ERT radio. Yeah, that's what you're missing by not watching
Oh, I
live.
see. All right, so this is the Betty Buckley section. It's like 4 or 5 pages.
Oh,
So maybe it'd be a good time to just tell you what this book was. Okay,
yes.
it came out in 2017. I self-published it. It's my super gay book of saints and holy days, and it's the idea. If you grew up Catholic, you have those books of the lives of
I
the
did.
saints, and it's what's their birthday, what are they, what are the patron saint of? So like July 3rd, Betty Buckley, patron saint of better living through breathing, which is my little joke because of her acting class.
Right.
And then all these little descriptive things, and then I wrote about her a little bit, and then here she is, like with a saintly thing behind her. And can you see the iguana?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. There you go.
So that was that. So that's
Cool.
but anyway, she's great. I love her. She's very nice. We don't chat a whole lot, but she appreciates the birthday portraits, and she always, reposts them. And she really loved the one I did of her as both Mrs. Lovett and Sweeney Todd because I'd heard a recording of her singing. Uh, I can't remember what song it was, but she was singing, like seven or eight, a bunch of songs, like a 7 8 minute mashup of songs from Sweeney Todd, and I just thought, what if she was both? And so she flipped for that one. And then the last
Nice.
one, the middle one, obviously is Cats, and the one on the right is her in her dressing room at intermission when she did the tour of Hello Dolly, the national tour from that production with Bette Midler on Broadway.
Hmm.
She took it on tour. That's
Nice.
her getting, yeah. So
So I guess I'm asking this for a friend. Um,
okay.
but the friend will no, but the friend will know who the friend is. Who is also an artist, digital, works on an iPad, and iconic things. So she does Route 66. I'm totally outing her here. It's my wife Tanya.
Oh, she's like, I
And
think I know who that is.
the iconography and the logos and where does copyright go and all. As an artist who's doing portraits of famous people or celebrities and all, do they have a certain level of notoriety where you can do that kind of thing without copyright? Or
Well, uh, let's hope so. I mean,
it's so
uh,
muddy. It's
you
so
know,
muddy. Yeah.
listen, I will tell you, there are a couple of things that I do and sometimes sell that are clearly not kosher, and but they have more to do with like a big orange fella in
Oh,
Philadelphia that's
oh yeah.
popular
But why is that
because
not
if
kosher?
well, because I don't have a copyright for that fella,
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but if you slap him on a Christmas card and you call your and you make look, I have this Christmas card that's been out for like 6 or 7 years now, and it sells really well at this shop that has my stuff in Philadelphia. It's called the Grativity,
Uh-huh.
and it's got a Mary Gritty, Joseph Gritty, three wise men Gritty with the gifts are the Stanley Cup, a hockey puck, and a hockey stick, and then a
Uh-huh.
little baby Jesus Grativity. And people eat that up. I can't tell you how many of those I sell.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, it wouldn't be good to like if anybody heard this, I'm just kidding. I would never. But as far as like drawing a celebrity or whatever, I don't think there's,
Me
unless someone
either.
is particularly litigious,
Right.
um, I don't think there's much
Because there's so
danger in
many
it.
levels of interpretation and all. And actually, you get a lot of comments. We're going to find out tonight as we keep going.
Oh
They
yeah,
often engage you, which is so neat. I just think that's so neat.
yeah. Betty has for sure. She follows me on Instagram. And then just really quickly, that's her in a production again backstage of Grey Gardens. That's her with her Tony in 1983 for Cats, and this was based on a picture from the New York Times where they did a bunch of theatrical legends and put them in sort of outfits and makeup that were not direct copies of things they'd done before, but sort of inspired. You can see that's inspired by a cat.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really a fun picture to use as a jumping off point.
Neat. Yeah, that's very striking. I think we have a little more Betty. Yes,
Oh,
we do.
Betty, Ugh. Betty and Sunset Boulevard as now, I did that one maybe 10 years ago, and I don't love it anymore. I'm like, I don't know. It's okay. Like, I like the dress, okay. I'm not crazy about her face. I don't know. I don't have to tell these things, but I'm telling. And then the one on the right is her in the movie Carrie as the gym teacher with Sissy Spacek.
Nice. And I happen to love that one on the left. And Tanya and I joke about Nora Desmond all the time.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I find it very it captures something for me. So,
Oh,
and
thanks.
but now this one I've been waiting 3 days to ask you about.
Oh, okay. It's so funny. I almost didn't send this because it's like she's hardly in it, but uh, this is from the stage production of Carrie that ran for something like 3 or 4 days in New York in
Oh,
1988, and she was the mother. And there's a part where she's just sitting on the stage in a chair by herself, and I saw pictures of it, and I thought, let me do it. And I tried lots of different ways, and sometimes the you might not get exactly what you thought you were going to get or what you were trying to get, but then sometimes it's better, or it's
Yeah.
it's more stark, or anyway, I ended up liking it, so I sent it to you.
It reminds me when we were in art school as kids, and you would get the paper that was coated with the black stuff, and you would remove some of the black to sort of reveal
Yes.
a picture that was it. That it's very striking with all the black all around. I love it. I love it. The thing that I was gonna, and I didn't mean to interrupt you before. 180 degrees from your, that's exactly an iguana. Tanya and I were on a road trip recently, and we listened to Henry Winkler's
Mm.
autobiography, read by him, and he took a class with Stella Adler, and
Uh,
she wanted him to imagine, because you mentioned chorus line too. She mentioned pick flowers, and he knew what these were. They were violets, and he knew what color they were. And she was like, "You don't see those flowers. You don't see those flowers." And throughout the entire book, he revisits. Not bad. I just won an Emmy, and Stella says I can't see the flower. So obviously, it stayed with him. So are
oh my
you?
goodness, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You,
I should not touch these. I keep forgetting. I have earbuds in that I've never used before, so it's like don't touch them.
Yeah, you went out a little bit
Okay.
before, but then you came right back, so I didn't mention it. Um, Joanna Gleason.
Joanna Gleason. Well, if you go to the next slide of her,
Yes, sir.
I'll start at the beginning. Okay.
Okay.
So 10 year her birthday is June 2nd, as you probably know. And she I drew this image of her on the left. Um, Actually, I think I drew it after I had a dream about her, but I sent it to her on Facebook 10 years ago on her birthday. And I didn't know her. I just saw, oh, she's on Facebook. I'll send her this drawing. And I got back a very nice little, oh, thank you so much, for remembering my birthday. 6 months later, and this was right after Inauguration Day in 2017. That's how long it's been going on. I get a message from her saying, would you mind if I? Oh, first of all, she's like, "This is hi, this is Joanna Gleason." I'm like, I know, like, um, would you mind if I use that drawing you did of me as my profile picture? And I said, sure, no problem. And she, by the way, she is still using it all these years later. I think if she ever took it down, that would be the end of me. But anyway, a couple days later, she writes again. She says, "Do you think you could add a bear?" And I was like, a bear. Um, yeah, okay, sure, I can add a bear. And then, so we went back and forth a few times with different bears, and I decided to hit the arm on the shoulder with the claw, and she ended up liking it. And so because she had plans for some sort of podcast or something, and it was going to be called Bear with Me, so that's why she wanted a bear.
Neat.
So I don't know whatever happened to the podcast, but that bear is still with her. If you go to Facebook and look her up, it's still there.
Oh,
Um,
neat.
so then she was like, where's your, ask her like my banking information or where she could, send electric cash, and electronic money. And I said, oh, no, no, no. I was happy to do this for you. And she said, no, artists must be paid for their work.
Amen.
And it was the first time I think it was the first time I'd ever gotten paid to do something, you know, with my drawing. And I still don't feel comfortable calling myself an artist. I like to call myself an illustrator because like artist is somehow too highfalutin, But but you did instill that in me. Like if somebody wants your time and your effort, they should pay for it. And so she's always been very generous, and she's hired me over the years to do several things for her.
That's
Christmas
neat.
card one year, a movie she was directing, and wrote. She wanted not quite. I can't think of the word. Um, Not quite storyboards, but something like that to get people interested in funding the movie. So
Hmm.
not like shot by shot, but just like here's a scene from the movie here. And I'll tell you the thing, it was set in like a little um, bar in the south in the west in Joshua Tree, and there was in the movie there's like a talent night, and she's like, "Could you draw like a ventriloquist with a Liza Minnelli puppet?" And I was like, "Oh, you had me at Liza Minnelli puppet." That was like one of the most fun things I ever worked on, and it's very simple, sparkly red dress and kind of big eyelashes and kind of a muppety sort of face and a green
Neat.
nose. It was really fun. Anyway,
Nice.
really, really fun working for her. And she had me, her film actually came out finally last year. And a couple of years ago, she contacted me and asked me to design a logo for her film company, which was called, oh, I can't remember what it was called. It was an address. It was like 18 something street. And it was her, I think, maternal grandfather uh, house in London. And so she wanted me to draw a house. And so I found, I did some research. I found what houses look like on that street. And I based it on one that was similar. And I had a friend of mine who's the animator. He animated it to turn the little street lamp on and the lights, like,
Oh, neat.
in the house. It's like it's on screen for like 30 seconds or something. But she came to Philadelphia for a screening, and then she introduced me and made a big deal about, the work I'd put in beforehand. So she's just lovely. And the man to her right
Yeah.
is Prince Humperdinck, right?
Yep.
That is Chris Sarandon, who is her husband, and I feel certain he was setting up a podcast and a website, and I think the conversation went something like this: "He's like, you should really have some illustrations on there." Well, I mean, I'll give you my guy's number. Because where else would he have found me, right?
Right.
So I ended up doing a bunch of drawings of him as well, and he had. I'm gonna grab something just right
Yeah,
off
please.
camera.
Yep.
So his podcast is about cooking and food and the memories it brings back and our childhood memories of meals. And so when I said, well, tell me about it. Tell me about the podcast. What's it going to be like? Or tell me about your history with food. And so he told me a couple of things that, uh, he grew up with his parents and his grandparents are Greek immigrants. They ate Greek food. They cooked Greek food in the house, but they lived in West Virginia and they owned an American diner. So he had both. And I thought my first thought was, like one of those diner cups that everybody where you get the coffee in.
Yeah.
And let me see if you can see this.
Let
Oh,
me take the make the screen bigger. Go ahead.
so his podcast is called Cooking by Heart,
There you go.
and this is an apron with the logo that he signed for me, and I instead of a normal sort of whatever they would have there, it's a boy standing on a chair next to his mother or grandmother at the stove, learning to cook, and the design. It was the first thing I sent him. He said, "I love it." The design changed very little, like move this over here a little bit or make this a little bit bigger. But it was like he went with it, and now it's like if you go to his website, it's on banners. He goes to like conventions and it's on a big plastic banner, and I love seeing that. And then he paid me for it twice, which was super generous because he paid for the design for me to do it, and then about a year later they decided they wanted to make merchandise, and he wanted to be able to just do that all clear. And as far as I was concerned, he already had the rights to it. He paid for it. But he said, no, we're going to pay you again because, that's the fair thing to do. And I'm so clueless about this stuff. He's like, how much do you think you'd want? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to like rip you off. I was like, I don't know, maybe 200, 250. He's like, and then he just sort of laughed. And he gave me many times that,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the two of them, they're extremely generous. And I can't say enough good things about them. So,
Excellent. Okay, we did that. And then okay, so Holland Taylor.
Holland Taylor. So Holland Taylor is like she's a broad, you know, but she's also like a classy dame. She's amazing, and she is from Philadelphia, which I always like. Not my part of Philadelphia. She's more, you know, mainline, more Bryn Mawr.
Yeah.
Um, and I drew her for her birthday one year. I don't know. This is probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I these are more recent, but I drew her as in character as Ann Richards, the governor of Texas, whom Holland wrote a play about, and you know, prim, performed it on Broadway and was nominated for a Tony, and she's performed it in other cities around the country, and it went to it was on PBS, and so you can see that one on the left there. That is her as Ann Richards, and Ann Richards had very high hair, big hair, and and I think she even kidded herself about it being an ice cream cone. And it made me think of Mr. Softy, you know, a big scoop of soft serve. So that's how I drew it. And she saw it. I don't think she saw it until like a year or two later, and she loved it. And she got in touch with me, and she was like, "Can I order a print?" And then I put it up at my website, and she ordered a phone, she ordered a beach towel, she ordered note cards, t-shirts, and then um, I decided. She asked me if I'd be willing to, you know, she would help promote it if I would donate a portion of my proceeds to the Ann Richards School for Girls in, I believe it's in Houston. And I was like, sure, of course. So, sold quite a bit of merchandise for that, but it went to charity, which I was happy to do. And
Nice.
um, and then I've met Holland once, like about a year and a half ago. She was doing a play at Lincoln Center, and I finally had a chance to meet her and say hello. And before that, I talked to her on the phone a few times, and we had one like in the middle of COVID, one long sort of FaceTime conversation. She was stuck in Pittsburgh filming this thing called The Chair, which is about college professors, and that's her on the right there in that. And she was like, "It's so boring here. We can't go out and eat. We can't do anything, you know." So she was just sort of stuck in her hotel. So anyway, but she was delightful as well.
Great.
And
What is NA, Joe?
oh, so this was the play she was doing at Lincoln Center, and it was the name of it, and it was a two character play about a woman who essentially is Nancy Pelosi, and the other woman is essentially, well, I can never say her name. Uh, uh, Cord- Help me, you know, the woman from the Bronx, to Alicia, um,
AOC?
AOC, AOC,
AOC.
AOC.
Yeah,
Yes,
AOC.
I never hear people say her name anymore. I just hear the
Right.
initials. So anyway,
Yep.
and it was a very good play, and I think that's recently made its debut on PBS as well.
Oh,
Um,
neat. Cool.
so yeah, it was really good.
There you go.
Um,
Kathleen Joyce helped us out.
oh, is she here? Oh,
AOC.
that's Kathleen Joyce is my sister. Thank you,
Oh,
Kathleen.
nice. Hello.
I didn't
And
know. I can't see who's here, so I didn't know.
Seth is here as well.
Oh,
So,
Seth. Hi, Seth. Seth is a wonderful supporter of mine. He lives in Dallas, and he'd be an interesting guest. Quite a career in the theater and in theater marketing, um, and just a lovely, fun person.
well, thank you for joining us tonight, Seth. I just want to let the audience know because Holland Taylor's could possibly be in the larger world the least known of anybody that's on the screen tonight. I love they will know her from Bosom Buddies, where Pete Scolari and Tom Hanks got their start.
Yeah.
And I
And
absolutely
Wendy Jo
adore her.
Sperber.
What's that?
Oh, I said and Wendy Jo Sperber. God rest her soul.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely adore her in One Fine Day. She's Michelle Pfeiffer's mom.
Yeah, she's very good in that. And of course, Legally Blonde. Um, and also, I think, I mean, my God, the show was on for like 12 years or something. They'd know her from Two and a Half Men.
All right, which I did not watch.
I didn't either, but
Yeah.
you know, but I think that is probably her biggest credit in so far as eyeballs on it.
We might be the only two
I know it
people
is.
in America who didn't watch that show. I watch little snippets on the reels every once in a while.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm not completely ignorant of it, but I don't, was not a
yeah,
regular watcher.
and it didn't come to good ends.
No.
But anyway, okay, no more Barbara Walters. Okay, so Christine Baranski, this will liven things right up.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a story about her. I love Christine Baranski. I first saw her on. Actually, I saw her in something, but I didn't know who she was until years later. There's uh, in the next set of pictures, I think, there's a picture of her in a uh, I don't know what you call it, a shimada. It's a uniform from a concentration camp,
Ooh,
and she was in this thing called Playing for Time, which was this TV film that Arthur Miller wrote about women in a band in an orchestra um, at I can't remember if it was Auschwitz or where it was. So it was based on real people. Anyway, she was in it when she was probably in her 20s. But I saw her on something on PBS. I think it was The House of Blue Leaves, and she just blew me away. And I just, she's hilarious. But I saw her in the street one day in New York in the late 90s, probably like a year or two after Civil took off, and she was, pretty popular.
yeah.
And my friend Mel was with me, and she spotted her first, and she was like, she sort of whispered, she was like, "Ruh, ruh, ruh, ruh." And I couldn't understand what she was saying. I was like, "What? Miss Baranski? What are you saying?" She's like, "It's Miss Baranski." I was like, and I looked over, and it's like, so we were crossing the street, we crossed over, and then we're standing there next to her, waiting for the light to change. And in New York, you're not supposed to bother the celebrities.
Right,
So I was like,
right.
don't bother her, don't bother her, don't bother her. And then I walked right into the street, and the light hadn't changed yet. And I almost got hit by a taxi, and I felt my friend Mel's hand on the back of my neck, like she literally pulled me back in, like I was a puppy or something, then picked me up and then I sort of landed hard right next to Christine Baranski, and I was like, it was. And I turned around and I said, well, I was trying not to bother you, but since I almost got killed trying not to bother you, I might as well say hello. And she's like, oh my God. Just like you would expect her to. And she was very sweet. She was very nice. And we chatted for a moment. And then I was like, I can't wait to see you in the theater again. She's like, I'm going to see a show right now. Mm, off she went.
Nice. So the many faces of Christine
Ah,
Baranski.
there she is on the left as in Playing for Time. In the middle, she played Mrs. Lovett. I think in two different productions. In DC at the Kennedy Center in 2002, they had a whole year or a whole summer of Sondheim shows. And I think she did it in LA as well. In DC with Brian Stokes Mitchell, and in LA with Kelsey Grammer. And then on the
Uh,
right is just an image from I think it was from the Good Fight, the uh, sequel show to the Good Wife.
oh
And
yeah.
I just like the image of her with the big flower, and so.
I don't want to give short shrift. These are. Is there
Oh yeah.
anything specific to these? Yeah.
The one on the left, no, just she's in a pose in a gown. The one in the middle was, I think she wore to the Met Gala a few years ago that happened to fall on her 70th birthday. And on the right, I believe it's sort of an exaggerated, more caricature than I usually do, of the outfit she wore when I think she wore this when she won the Emmy in 1995.
Neat.
Um,
And I think we have some more. Yeah.
oh yeah, yes. Here she is with wine and tea. Um, did you pair those together? Oh, perfect. This was from that online Sondheim tribute that had to be online because when he turned 90 because of COVID.
Hmm.
And she sang The Ladies Who Lunch with Audra McDonald and Meryl Streep. And
Yeah.
then on the right is as oh God, what's her name from the Gilded Age? Kathleen Joyce can I know she, oh no, she's not Agnes. Is she Agnes? You know what? I can't speak anymore. I've been talking too long. Which,
It's okay.
but did you watch that show, The Gilded Age?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. She was wonderful.
Mm.
And I absolutely adore she was in The Leftovers and a bunch of other things. Help me out.
Mm.
She was she was the nouveau riche whose husband was the
Oh,
railroad.
uh, Carrie Coon.
Yeah, Carrie Coon. I love Carrie Coon. I felt like it was a miss for her. Okay, now I'm gonna be a little me, but uh
Who else could you be?
I really felt like, well, I try to temper these kinds of things, especially on the podcast, but I as much as I love Julian Fellows, and I mean I read his novels and I love, Dr. The Anthony Trollope stuff that he's done and everything. Um I didn't feel like there was any story in the first season, so I didn't go back.
Mm.
Like other than the spoiler, sorry to people who maybe haven't watched it, but there's a suicide, which is like a mini arc of somebody who gets caught up and can't quite play the game. And to me, that was the only story. All the rest of it was sort of character study to me, which sometimes I like, but I just didn't like it in the Julian Fellows piece. But I thought she was
Mm.
wonderful. That's right. I guess I've sort of blocked it out because that was many seasons ago, and I know it got other seasons.
Yeah, I mean they're about to have their what's coming up now? Their fourth or fifth season.
Yeah, so sometimes I'm the first one to admit I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm a story analyst and a script doctor and a reviewer. And you know what? It's just opinion.
Yeah.
It's just opinion. So I don't, that's my personal opinion. It didn't land for me, but again, she was terrific. So Jim, we're gonna do something here. We got Stockard still to go.
Uh,
We got Stockard. We got Eileen. We have Barbara.
just three pretty big ones.
Isabella.
Oh
So
yeah.
what I'm thinking, and you're saying that you're a little tired and getting a little fuzzy. I am going to be spontaneous here and
Okay.
say, why do you come back?
Sure. Part two. Dose.
Yes. And we'll pick up with Stockard because, I have some things to share. Well, one thing to share about Stockard because she was in a film by someone who was a recent guest on the show.
I
But
saw that.
yeah, what do you think about that? We've gone for about an hour and 11 minutes. And
Really? Wow.
why don't I have you back in, I'll send you some dates, but maybe we'll do it in, let me just look at my handy. I have dates open in July. So
Okay.
maybe it'll be about a month from now because Tanya and I are going back on the road. So I'm going to be reposting some shows and all. Why don't we do that?
Sure. I'd be happy to.
So that we don't have to rush. And I feel like you get shorted, the audience gets shorted, and these wonderful accomplished. I mean, we got some heavy hitters coming up.
Yes. Yes. It's funny. I have all these barber friends online from different fan groups and whatnot. And I told one of them, Barbara's going to be last. You have to wait till the end because who could follow her possibly,
I
So,
saw that. Right.
yeah.
Exactly so. And I know you absolutely adore her. And Eileen Brennan, we can both talk about a lot. Just a
Yes.
genius. An absolute genius. So why don't we do that? So
Okay.
folks, as soon as I find out, I'll let you all know. But I think it's going to be sometime. Hopefully, Jim can join us in the middle of July, the 9th, the 16th, or the 23rd. So give that some, the 9th, the 16th, or the 23rd, Jim.
Okay.
So, but I'll text, I'll message you tomorrow. So yeah, so that's it, folks. That's what we're gonna do. I made an executive decision. It's nice being your own producer sometimes.
Right.
Yeah,
It's good to be the king.
it is. Well, yeah, it's good to be Humperdinck. It's good to be the prince.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot. This was wonderful. And so we will come back for part two. So everyone, next week I have another an animator with some pretty impressive credentials, Saturday Night Live and Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, all kinds of cool things. Dan Medea, yes, the last name, my cousin. I'm lucky that I have some family in the business or who do storytelling. So that's what we're gonna do next week. And then Tanya and I are off on another segment of the road trip. So I'll be reposting Josh Stout, the painter. Jim, I've really been enjoying having the artists on, the visual artists.
Oh, good.
It's been really neat. So I look forward, selfishly, I get to spend another hour and 15 minutes or so with you again. So this worked out well. So all right, good night, everybody, and we will see you in a month with Jim back, but I'll see you next week with Dan Medea, animator. Should be fun.